A stranger's fist shattered a whiskey glass 3 feet from where she stood. Wren Ashford had walked into Copper Ridge's roughest bar, looking for answers about her brother's disappearance. But she found herself cornered by men who didn't take kindly to questions. The room erupted into chaos. Chairs overturned, bottles smashed, violence spreading like wildfire across the stained floorboards. She pressed herself against the far wall, trembling, realizing too late that some truths weren't meant to be uncovered alone. Then the door burst open. Jericho Flint, president of the Iron Creed Motorcycle Club, stepped through the smoke and chaos with the calm of a man who'd seen worse. His leather cut bore patches earned through loyalty and blood. His eyes, storm grey and unflinching, swept across the carnage until they locked onto hers. In that instant, Wren understood she'd stumbled into something far more dangerous than a bar fight. She'd walked into a war that had been brewing for years. "You're with me now," Jericho said, voice cutting through the noise like steel through silk. "Act like you belong." He pulled her close, his arm a shield against the violence closing in. The scent of leather and gasoline wrapped around her as the fight raged on. But in that moment, pressed against the MC president's chest, Wren felt something shift. A strange, terrifying safety in the eye of the storm. What she didn't know was that her pretend protection would become real, that the Iron Creed held secrets about her brother's last days, that Jericho Flint had made a promise to a dying man. And he always kept his word. The lie they were about to live would become the most dangerous truth either of them had ever known. The neon sign outside Lucky's bar flickered like a dying heartbeat. Wren Ashford sat in her rusted Civic for 5 full minutes, engine ticking as it cooled, hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. Through the grimy window, she could see shadows moving inside, rough shapes that reminded her of wolves circling prey. Her brother Callan had been here. 3 weeks before he vanished, he'd sent her a single text, "Found something at Lucky's. Don't worry about me." But she did worry. She'd worried every day since the police closed his missing person case, shrugging it off as another drifter who'd chosen to disappear. They didn't know Callan. He wouldn't just leave, not without telling her goodbye. Wren pushed open the car door. The October air bit cold against her face, carrying the smell of motor oil and old cigarettes. She'd dressed carefully. Jeans, plain jacket, nothing that screamed outsider, but the moment she stepped through Lucky's entrance, every conversation died. If you've ever walked into a room where you didn't belong, drop a comment below. Let's see how many of us know that feeling of eyes turning toward trouble. The bar stretched long and scarred, its wooden surface marked by decades of drinks and fights. Men lined the stools like sentries, their leather cuts bearing patches she couldn't read in the dim light. A jukebox played something low and angry in the corner. The bartender, a mountain of a man with a grey beard, studied her with the intensity of someone cataloguing threats. "Help you?" His voice was gravel and suspicion. "Looking for information." Wren kept her voice steady, though her heart hammered. "About Callan Ashford. He came here about a month ago." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Nobody here knows that name." The bartender's response came too quick, too rehearsed. "I think someone does." Wren pulled out her phone, showing Callan's picture. "He's my brother. He—" A hand clamped down on her wrist. She spun to find a man with yellow teeth and breath that reeked of whiskey. "Pretty thing like you shouldn't be asking questions." "Let go!" She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Or what?" He leaned closer. "You gonna call the cops? They don't come here, sweetheart. Not for people like us." 2 more men stood up from their table. The energy shifted from hostile to predatory. Wren's throat went dry. She'd made a terrible mistake. This wasn't just a bar. It was territory, and she'd walked in without permission. "I said let go." Her voice cracked. The man laughed. Someone shoved a table, the screech of wood on concrete like nails on a chalkboard. A bottle smashed somewhere behind her. Then someone threw the first punch, and the entire bar exploded into violence. Wren stumbled backward as bodies collided around her. A chair flew past her head. Glass shattered against the wall, spraying shards that caught the weak light like diamonds. She pressed herself into the corner, heart in her throat, watching the chaos unfold with the surreal slowness of a nightmare. She'd come looking for her brother. Instead, she'd started a war. Then the door burst open with a sound like thunder. Silence didn't fall. It crashed down like a judge's gavel. Men froze mid-swing. The violence hung suspended in the air, waiting. Wren looked toward the entrance and saw him. Jericho Flint was not a large man, but he filled the doorway like he owned the entire world behind him. His leather cut bore the Iron Creed patch, a crowned skull wrapped in chains. His dark hair was pulled back, revealing a face carved from hard decisions and harder years. Storm-grey eyes swept the room with the calm authority of someone who'd earned respect through blood and loyalty. Enough. One word. That's all it took. The men lowered their fists. Chairs were set upright. The violence drained from the room like water from a broken dam. Jericho's gaze found Wren in her corner, and something flickered in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. He crossed the floor in 4 measured steps. The crowd parted like water. When he stood before her, she caught the scent of leather and gasoline, mixed with something darker. Gunpowder, maybe, or old promises. "You lost?" His voice was low, controlled, with an edge that could cut glass. "I'm looking for someone." Wren forced herself to meet his eyes. "My brother." "You picked a hell of a place to look." Jericho studied her face like he was reading a map. "And now you've got bigger problems than a missing brother." Behind him, the men from the bar were circling closer. She saw it in their eyes. They wouldn't let her walk out with the questions she'd asked. Information was currency here, and she'd tried to steal it. Jericho must have seen it too. His jaw tightened. "You're with me now," he said, loud enough for the entire bar to hear. "Act like you belong." Before Wren could process the words, he pulled her against him. His arm wrapped around her waist, solid and unyielding. The room shifted again, not with violence this time, but with something else. Understanding, respect, fear. "This is my woman," Jericho announced to the bar. "Anyone got a problem with that?" The silence was answer enough. Wren's mind reeled. She should protest, should pull away. But something in Jericho's eyes told her that this lie was the only thing standing between her and whatever the men in this bar had planned. So she leaned into him, playing the role, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong against her shoulder. "Good," Jericho said softly, for her ears only. "Now walk with me. Don't look back. Don't run. Just walk." They moved toward the door together, and the crowd parted like they were royalty passing through. Wren's legs felt like water, but Jericho's arm kept her upright. The cold air hit her face as they stepped outside, and she gasped like she'd been drowning. "Get in the truck." Jericho pointed to a black Silverado parked at the curb. "We need to talk. I don't even know you. Your brother knew me." The words stopped her cold. Callan Ashford. He was looking into something he shouldn't have been, and now you're doing the same damn thing. Wren's breath caught. "You knew him? Is he alive?" Jericho's expression was stone. "Get in the truck. I'll tell you what I can. But if you want to survive the next 24 hours, you need to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say." She looked back at Lucky's bar. Through the window she could see shapes moving, shadows gathering. They were watching, waiting. Wren climbed into the truck. The Silverado's engine rumbled to life. A deep growl that vibrated through Wren's chest. Jericho pulled away from Lucky's bar without looking back, his hand steady on the wheel. Through the side mirror, she watched the neon sign fade into the October darkness. "Where are you taking me?" Her voice was smaller than she wanted it to be. "Somewhere we can talk without an audience." Jericho's eyes stayed on the road. "You asked questions that people died to keep secret. You understand that? People died." Ren's stomach turned to ice. "Is my brother—" "I don't know." The admission came hard, like pulling teeth. "But I knew him. He came to me 6 weeks ago, said he'd uncovered something about the Copper Ridge operation, wanted protection. I told him I'd help, but he disappeared before I could deliver on that promise." The truck turned down a dirt road, headlights cutting through pine trees that crowded close like witnesses. Ren's mind spun with 1,000 questions, but she forced herself to focus on the most important one. What operation? Jericho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old battles. "Copper Ridge looks like a dying mining town, but it's not. There's a trafficking network running through it. Guns, drugs, people. Your brother was a reporter. He got too close to the truth." "So you're saying someone killed him?" The words felt like glass in her throat. "I'm saying I don't know if he's alive or dead, but the men in that bar, they work for someone who doesn't like questions, and now that you've shown your face, they know you're connected to Callan." Jericho glanced at her, and she saw something unexpected in those storm-grey eyes. Guilt. "I promised your brother I'd keep him safe. I failed. I'm not failing twice." The truck stopped in front of a compound, a sprawling property surrounded by chain-link fence. Buildings lit by harsh floodlights. Through the gate, Ren could see motorcycles lined up like soldiers, men in leather cuts moving through the yard with purpose. "This is Iron Creed territory," Jericho said. "While you're under my protection, no one touches you. But there are rules." "Rules?" "You play the part we started in that bar. You're my woman. You stay close. You don't ask questions in front of the club, and you sure as hell don't go running off alone." His tone left no room for negotiation. "The men who want you dead, they respect one thing, club law. As long as they think you belong to me, you're untouchable." Ren's pulse hammered. "This is insane. I came here looking for my brother, not to play pretend with a motorcycle club president." "Then you should have stayed home." Jericho's words were brutal and honest, but you didn't. You walked into Lucky's bar asking questions, and now you're in this whether you like it or not. So you've got 2 choices, trust me, or walk away and see how long you last on your own. The weight of the decision pressed down on her chest. Through the fence, she could see the clubhouse, a large building with Iron Creed painted across its face. Men moved in and out, their movements synchronized like they'd done this dance 1,000 times. This was a world she didn't understand, built on codes and loyalty she couldn't comprehend. But Callan had trusted these people, or at least he'd tried to. "If I do this," Ren said slowly, "you help me find my brother." Jericho studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "I was going to help you anyway. I made him a promise." "Why? You didn't even know him." "Because some promises are bigger than the people who make them." Jericho opened his door, stepping out into the compound. "Come on, I'll introduce you to the club. Remember, you're mine. Act like it." Ren climbed out of the truck on shaking legs. The night air smelled of engine oil and wood smoke. As they approached the gate, a man with a scarred face and arms covered in tattoos stepped forward. "Boss?" His eyes slid to Ren with open curiosity. "Who's this?" "Marlowe," Jericho said, using a name Ren didn't recognize until she realized it was for her. A fake identity. Protection. "She's under my protection. Spread the word." The guard's expression shifted to understanding. "Got it. Welcome to Iron Creed, Marlowe." They walked through the compound, and Ren felt every eye on her. Men paused their conversations to watch. A woman with red hair and a leather cut studied her with calculating interest. The clubhouse door opened, releasing a wave of sound. Music, laughter, the clink of bottles. Inside, the space was exactly what she'd expected and nothing like it at the same time. The walls were covered in photographs, memorial shots of men who died, victories celebrated, brotherhood immortalized. A bar stretched along one wall, tended by a woman with silver streaks in her black hair. Pool tables occupied the far end. Men in leather cuts lounged on couches, their conversation dropping to murmurs as Jericho entered. "Brothers!" Jericho's voice cut through the noise. "This is Marlowe. She's with me. Anyone got questions?" Silence was the answer. In this world, the president's word was law. A man with a graying beard and kind eyes stood up from the bar. "Welcome, Marlowe. Name's Bishop. I'm the VP around here." He offered his hand, and Wren shook it, feeling the calluses of someone who'd worked with his hands his entire life. "Thank you," she managed. "You hungry?" Bishop asked. "Kitchen still open." Before Wren could answer, Jericho placed a hand on her lower back, a possessive gesture that sent a shiver down her spine. "She's fine. We need to talk, privately." He led her through the clubhouse to a back hallway, then into an office that smelled of leather and old paper. The door closed behind them, muffling the sounds of the club. Wren finally let herself breathe. "You did good out there," Jericho said, moving behind a heavy wooden desk. "But you looked scared. Can't show fear in front of the club. These men respect strength." "I am scared." Wren wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm terrified. I don't know what I'm doing here, or why you're helping me, or if my brother is even alive." "Hey." Jericho's voice softened. He came around the desk, standing close enough that she could see the scars on his knuckles. "I'm going to find out what happened to Callan, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Wren looked up at him. There was something in his eyes, something that reminded her of her brother, the same determined stubbornness, the same refusal to back down from what was right. "I'll try," she whispered. "Good." Jericho moved back to his desk, pulling out a worn notebook. "Now tell me everything Callan told you before he disappeared. Every detail matters." So Wren talked. She told him about Callan's journalism work, his obsession with uncovering corruption, the way he'd grown quieter in the weeks before he vanished. She told him about the text message, about the police investigation that went nowhere, about the gut-deep certainty that her brother wouldn't just leave without saying goodbye. Jericho listened, taking notes, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Your brother was onto something big, bigger than drugs or guns. He told me he'd found evidence of trafficking routes running through Copper Ridge, routes protected by people in power, local law enforcement, maybe even state level. That's why the police didn't investigate. They were covering their own." The words hit Wren like physical blows. "So what do? We find proof, and we find Callan, dead or alive. We bring him home." Jericho stood, his presence filling the small office. "But first, we establish your cover. Starting tomorrow, you're living here, in my quarters. As far as anyone outside this club knows, you're my woman. That means we share a bed. We're seen together. We look like a couple. Can you handle that?" Wren's cheeks flushed. I don't even know you." "You know I keep my promises. That's all you need to know." Jericho moved toward the door, then paused. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we start looking for your brother. And Wren?" He used her real name for the first time since they'd left the bar. "Thank you for trusting me. I won't let you down." He left, closing the door softly behind him. Wren sank into the chair, her mind reeling. 24 hours ago, she'd been living a normal life, working her bookstore job, worrying about rent and bills and mundane things. Now she was pretending to be the girlfriend of a motorcycle club president, hunting for a brother who might be dead, caught in a web of corruption she didn't understand. But as terrifying as it was, she felt something else too. Hope. For the first time since Callan disappeared, she had someone on her side who actually cared about finding the truth. Morning came with the smell of coffee and motorcycle exhaust. Wren woke on a couch in Jericho's office, covered by a blanket she didn't remember pulling over herself. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching dust motes that hung in the air like tiny worlds. The door opened. Jericho entered carrying 2 mugs, his leather cut replaced by a simple black shirt that revealed tattoos running down both arms. In daylight, he looked younger, maybe mid-30s, with lines around his eyes that spoke of hard laughter and harder times. Coffee. He handed her a mug. Black. Figured you for someone who takes it straight. Wren accepted gratefully. The first sip was bitter perfection. Thank you. For everything. For last night. For... Don't thank me yet. Jericho sat on the edge of his desk. We've got work to do. But first you need to understand how this place operates. For the next hour, he explained the structure of Iron Creed. The hierarchy. President. Vice President, Sergeant-at-Arms, Road Captain. The rules about respect, about loyalty, about what happened to people who broke club law. He talked about the compound, where she could go, where she couldn't, who she could trust. Bishop is my right hand, Jericho said. He was in the Marines with me back before this life. He's solid. If something happens to me, you go to him. Nothing's going to happen to you, Wren said automatically, then felt foolish. What did she know about this world? But Jericho smiled. It changed his entire face, softening the hard edges. Let's hope you're right. A knock interrupted them. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 40s, with long, silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. She wore a leather cut marked with property of Bishop. Morning, boss. Brought breakfast. She carried a tray loaded with eggs, bacon, and toast. Figured your girl might be hungry. Wren, this is Maya, Bishop's old lady. Jericho took the tray. Maya, this is Marlowe. Maya's sharp eyes studied Wren with the intensity of someone who'd seen it all and believed very little. Marlowe, huh? Interesting name for a girl who looks like she's never been on a motorcycle in her life. Wren's cheeks flushed. Easy, Maya. Jericho's voice held warning. She's under my protection. I know what she is. Maya crossed her arms, just making sure she knows. This life, it's not for everyone. You run at the first sign of trouble, you'll break hearts around here, including his. She nodded toward Jericho. I'm not running. Wren stood, meeting Maya's challenging gaze. I came here looking for my brother. I'm not leaving until I find him. Something shifted in Maya's expression. Respect, maybe. Good. We can use someone with spine. She turned to Jericho. Bishop wants a meeting, an hour. Something came up last night. After Maya left, Wren picked at the breakfast. Her appetite gone. She doesn't like me. She doesn't trust you. There's a difference. Jericho ate methodically, like a soldier fueling for battle. Maya's been with Bishop for 20 years. She's seen women come and go. Some stay, most run. She's protecting the club. From me. From anyone who might hurt the people she loves. Jericho set down his fork. Listen, Wren. This pretend relationship, it's going to feel real sometimes. We'll be close, we'll touch, we'll look like a couple. That's not just for show. It's survival. But I want you to know I'm not. This isn't about taking advantage. This is about keeping you alive long enough to find your brother. The sincerity in his voice made Wren's throat tight. Why do you care so much? Really? Jericho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried old pain. I had a sister once, Emma. She got mixed up with the wrong people, drugs and bad men. I was deployed overseas, thought she'd be fine until I got back. She wasn't. His jaw tightened. Found her 3 weeks after I came home. Too late to save her. So when your brother came to me asking for help, I saw a chance to do right by someone. I failed Emma. I won't fail Callan or you." Wren's eyes burned. "I'm sorry. About your sister." "Me too." Jericho stood, rolling his shoulders like he was shaking off the weight of memory. "Come on. Time to show you around the compound. People need to see us together. Cement the cover." They spent the morning walking Iron Creed territory. Jericho introduced her to the mechanics working on bikes in the garage, to the men guarding the gates, to the families who lived in small houses scattered across the property. Everyone greeted Jericho with respect and Wren with curious acceptance. Around noon, they stopped by the outdoor training area, where a group of younger members were sparring. One kid, couldn't be more than 19, took a hard hit and went down. Jericho walked over, offering his hand. "Keep your guard up, Denver. Life doesn't give second chances." The kid, Denver, grinned despite the split lip. "Yes, sir, President." As they walked away, Wren asked, "He called you President, not Jericho." Respect. Jericho watched the young men return to sparring. Most of these kids come from broken homes. No fathers, no structure. The club gives them something to belong to, rules to follow, brothers to depend on. It's not perfect, but it's better than the streets. Wren saw it then, the real man behind the leather and authority, someone who'd taken his pain and turned it into purpose, someone who actually gave a damn. "You're a good man," she said quietly. Jericho's expression was unreadable. "Don't make that mistake. I've done things that would make you run screaming. I'm not good. I'm just trying to be better." Before Wren could respond, Bishop appeared, his face grim. "Boss, we got a problem. You need to see this." They followed him to the main gate where a crowd had gathered. On the ground lay a dead crow, its neck broken, a note tied to its leg with wire. Jericho bent down, carefully removing the paper. His expression darkened as he read. "What does it say?" Wren asked. Jericho crumpled the note in his fist. "It says, 'Return what's ours or lose more than birds.'" Bishop spat on the ground. "It's from the Copper Ridge crew. They know she's here." Wren's stomach dropped. "They're threatening you because of me. They're threatening us because we're in their way." Jericho's voice was ice and iron. "This just got a lot more complicated. Bishop, double the guards. No one in or out without my say. And get everyone in the clubhouse. We need to talk strategy." As the club mobilized, Jericho pulled Wren aside. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek, a gesture that looked intimate to anyone watching, but felt strangely comforting. "This is where you decide," he said softly. "You can leave now. I'll give you money, a new identity, a way out. Or you can stay, and we see this through together. But if you stay, there's no running. Not from them, not from me. We're in this until the end." Wren thought of Callan, of promises made and kept, of the brother who'd never abandoned her, even when things got hard. "I'm staying," she said, "whatever it takes." Jericho's eyes searched hers, looking for doubt. Finding none, he nodded slowly. Then he kissed her forehead. Another gesture for the watching eyes, but one that sent warmth spreading through her chest. "Then let's go to war," he whispered. "And now, I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you." The clubhouse meeting room felt like a war council. 20 men crowded around a table covered in maps and photographs, their leather cuts creaking as they leaned forward to study Jericho's strategy. Smoke from cigarettes hung in the air like fog. Wren stood in the corner, trying to make herself invisible while absorbing every word. "Copper Ridge crew is making a move," Jericho said, pointing to a location circled in red. "This warehouse on the outskirts, that's where they've been running their operation. Guns come in from the south, drugs from the west, and according to intel, people from the east." Bishop traced a road with his finger. What's their endgame? Why come at us now? Because Callan Ashford got too close. Jericho glanced at Wren. He had photographs, documents, names. If that evidence surfaces, it burns their entire network. And his sister showing up asking questions. They think she knows where he hid the proof. A man with a scarred neck and cold eyes spoke up. So we give her to them. Problem solved. The room went silent. Wren's heart hammered. Say that again, Garrett. Jericho's voice was soft, deadly. I want to make sure I heard you right. Garrett didn't back down. I'm saying we protect the club. This woman isn't one of us. Why risk our brothers for someone who walked in yesterday? Because I gave my word. Jericho moved around the table until he stood face to face with Garrett. And in this club, my word is law. You got a problem with that? The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Finally, Garrett looked away. No, President. Good. Jericho returned to the maps. We're not handing over anyone. We're going to find Callan's evidence, expose the Copper Ridge operation, and end this. But we do it smart. Bishop, I want surveillance on the warehouse. Denver, you and the prospects start asking around town, quietly. Someone knows where Callan went. Maya, work your contacts in the diner. Women talk more freely around you. Plans were laid, assignments given. The meeting broke up with the organized chaos of soldiers mobilizing. As the room emptied, Wren found herself alone with Jericho and Bishop. Garrett's not wrong. Bishop's voice was careful. Protecting her puts the whole club at risk. I know. Jericho rubbed his face. But I made a promise to Callan, and maybe I'm tired of letting people down. Bishop studied his friend for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we'll see this through, but Jericho, don't get so focused on keeping promises that you forget to keep yourself alive. After Bishop left, Wren approached Jericho. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring this down on you. You didn't bring anything. This was already here, simmering under the surface. You just forced it into the light. Jericho rolled his shoulders. Come on, let's get you set up in my quarters. We need to maintain the appearance. His quarters turned out to be a surprisingly normal apartment above the garage. Bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom with actual hot water. The only hints of the life below were the locked gun safe and the leather cuts hanging by the door. You can have the bed, Jericho said. I'll take the couch. We're supposed to be a couple. Won't people notice if we're not actually together? The walls are thick. No one will know. He moved to the window, looking out over the compound. Besides, you've been through enough. I'm not adding to it by making you uncomfortable. Something in his tone made Wren brave. What if I'm not uncomfortable? Jericho turned slowly. Wren, I'm not saying... She struggled for words. I'm just saying, if we're going to sell this lie, maybe we shouldn't sleep in separate rooms. People notice things. And I trust you. The last 3 words hung in the air between them. Jericho's expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. All right, he said finally, but I sleep on top of the covers, and if you change your mind, say so. No judgment. That night, Wren lay in the dark, listening to Jericho's breathing, feeling the weight of him on the other side of the bed. It should have felt strange, dangerous even. Instead, it felt like the safest she'd been since Callan disappeared. Jericho, she whispered. Yeah? Why do you really do this? Lead the club, I mean. It can't just be about brotherhood. He was quiet for so long, she thought he might not answer. Then, after Emma died, I came back from overseas with nothing. No family, no purpose, just anger and grief. I was headed down a dark road. Bishop found me, brought me to Iron Creed. The club gave me a reason to keep going, gave me brothers when I had none. Leadership isn't about power. It's about taking care of people who need someone to believe in them. That's beautiful, Wren said softly. That's survival. but his voice held a smile. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start hunting for real answers." Wren closed her eyes, feeling the steady rhythm of Jericho's presence beside her. For the first time in weeks, she slept without nightmares. 3 days into the search, they caught their first break. Denver, the young prospect, came running into the clubhouse with news that made everyone sit up straight. "Found someone who saw Callan," Denver panted. "Old guy who works the night shift at the gas station on Route 9. Says he remembers a journalist asking about the warehouse. Says he warned him not to go snooping." Jericho and Wren were in the Silverado within minutes, Bishop riding shotgun while Wren sat in the back. The gas station was a rundown building on the edge of town, its fluorescent lights buzzing like dying insects. The attendant was 70, if he was a day, with rheumy eyes and hands that shook as he pointed toward the hills. "Your friend came through here 6 weeks back, asked about the old mining facility up on Copper Ridge. I told him nobody goes up there no more. He went anyway. Did he come back?" Wren leaned forward, hope and dread warring in her chest. "Saw his car the next morning parked at the trailhead, but I never saw him." The old man's eyes were haunted. "You kids be careful. Bad things happen up in those hills. Always have." They drove to the trailhead as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. Callan's car was gone, but Bishop found tire tracks, recent ones from multiple vehicles. "Someone else has been here," Bishop said, kneeling to study the ground, "within the last week." Jericho pulled out his phone, checking a topographical map. "The warehouse is 3 miles up this trail. If Callan went looking, that's where he'd end up. We go in after dark," Bishop decided, "less chance of being spotted." They returned to the compound to gear up. Wren watched as the men loaded guns, checked radios, moved with the practiced efficiency of soldiers. When she tried to follow them to the trucks, Jericho stopped her. "You're staying here." "Like hell I am. That's my brother up there." "Which is exactly why you're staying. If something goes wrong, if we get compromised, I need you safe. I need someone to carry forward if we don't come back." His eyes were hard, unyielding. "This isn't up for debate. You promised we'd do this together. And I'm keeping that promise, but together doesn't mean stupid." Jericho cupped her face, the gesture familiar now after days of playing the role. "Trust me, please." Wren wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but she saw the fear behind his eyes, fear for her, not himself. So she nodded, hating every second of it. "Be careful," she whispered. "Always am." He kissed her forehead, then climbed into the truck. Wren watched the convoy of motorcycles and trucks disappear into the night, their taillights like red eyes swallowed by darkness. Maya appeared beside her, offering a cup of coffee. "He'll come back," the older woman said. "Jericho always comes back." "You don't know that. I know him, known him for 15 years. That man has survived things that would break most people. He'll survive tonight, too." Maya sipped her own coffee. "Besides, he's got something worth coming back for now." Wren looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've watched him this past week. Watched the way he looks at you when he thinks no one's paying attention. That's not pretend, sweetheart. That's real." Before Wren could respond, Maya's radio crackled. Bishop's voice came through, tense. "We've got movement at the warehouse, multiple vehicles. This is bigger than we thought." Wren's heart stopped. "What does that mean?" "It means they walked into something." Maya's face was grim. "Come on. We need to get to the radio room." The next 2 hours were the longest of Wren's life. She paced the radio room while Maya monitored communications, catching fragments of conversation. "East entrance compromised. They've got guards. Hold position." Then silence. 5 minutes of absolute silence. "Maya?" Wren's voice cracked. "Give them time. Sometimes they have to go dark." But Maya's knuckles were white on the radio. Then, "Bishop to home base. We've got it. Coming out hot. Tell Maya to have the medical kit ready." Wren's legs nearly gave out. Someone's hurt. Jericho took a graze. He's fine, but he'll need stitches. Maya was already moving, pulling supplies from a locked cabinet. Get the alcohol, the sutures. Make yourself useful instead of panicking. By the time the convoy roared through the gates, Wren had the medical supplies laid out. Jericho climbed out of the lead truck. One hand pressed to his side, where blood seeped through his shirt, but he was grinning. "Found it," he said. "We found Callan's evidence." They spread the contents across Jericho's desk like pieces of a puzzle. Photographs, documents, USB drives, and a journal written in Callan's distinctive handwriting. Wren's hands shook as she touched the familiar loops and curves of her brother's penmanship. "He hid it in a maintenance shaft," Bishop explained. "Sealed it in waterproof containers. Smart. If they'd found his car, they never would have found this." Wren opened the journal, her eyes blurring with tears as she read Callan's words. "If someone's reading this, it means I didn't make it, but the truth needs to be told. The Copper Ridge operation isn't just trafficking. It's a pipeline. Guns to cartels, drugs to cities and people. God, the people. Mostly kids, runaways who no one will miss. They're using the old mining tunnels to move cargo. And the protection goes high. Sheriff Davies, Judge Morrison, maybe even State Senator Vaughan. I've got proof. Names, dates, transactions. Wren, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I tried to do the right thing. Don't come looking for revenge. Just make sure this gets to someone who can use it." The room was silent. Bishop whistled low. "This is big. Bigger than we thought. This is a death sentence for everyone involved." Jericho flipped through photographs showing pallets of weapons, ledgers with transactions, blurry images of men in uniforms loading trucks. "If we release this, we start a war with people who have serious resources." Wren looked up, her face wet with tears. "So what do you want to do? Bury it? Let my brother's death mean nothing?" "I want to use it smart." Jericho met her eyes. "We need someone outside the local system, someone who can't be bought. Federal jurisdiction, maybe, but we've got to be careful. One wrong move, and everyone connected to this evidence becomes a target." Maya entered without knocking, her face urgent. "Turn on the news. Channel 7, now." Jericho grabbed the remote. The television flickered to life, showing a reporter standing in front of a familiar building, Lucky's Bar. The banner read, "Local bar fire claims 2 lives. Authorities are investigating a suspicious fire that destroyed Lucky's Bar early this morning," the reporter said. 2 bodies were recovered from the scene. Officials haven't released names, but sources say one victim was the establishment's owner, Marcus Red Riley. Bishop swore. "That's a message. They're cleaning house." "They know we have the evidence," Jericho said grimly, "and they're eliminating anyone who might talk." Wren felt sick. "This is my fault. If I hadn't asked questions, this was coming regardless." Jericho turned off the television. "Callan's investigation put everything in motion. We just accelerated the timeline." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling in a favor. There's a federal agent I served with in Afghanistan, owes me his life. If anyone can take this evidence and run with it, it's him." "How long until he gets here?" Bishop asked. "Tomorrow morning. Until then, we lock this place down. No one in or out. Triple the guards. And someone stays with Wren at all times." As the club mobilized, Jericho pulled Wren aside to the stairs, leading to his quarters. Away from the others, his tough exterior cracked slightly. "I'm sorry about your brother," he said quietly, reading his words. "He was brave and he loved you. That journal, those warnings, all of it was to protect you." Wren leaned against the wall, exhaustion and grief crashing over her. "I knew he was dead. I think I've known for weeks, but reading it, seeing proof." A sob broke through. "He died alone and afraid, and I wasn't there." Hey." Jericho stepped closer, pulling her into his arms. "You're here now, finishing what he started, making sure his death meant something. That's what matters." Wren buried her face in his chest, letting herself break down for the first time since this nightmare began. Jericho held her, one hand stroking her hair, his presence a solid anchor in the storm of her grief. "I'm scared," she whispered. "What if they come for us before help arrives? What if they burn this place down like they did the bar? Then we fight." Jericho's voice was iron wrapped in velvet. "That's what we do, Wren. We fight for what's right, even when the odds are shit. And I promise you, I will not let them take you, whatever it costs." She pulled back to look at him, seeing past the leather and the scars to the man underneath. Why? Why risk everything for someone you barely know? Because you're not someone I barely know. Not anymore. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away tears. 3 days pretending to be your man taught me something. It's not pretend anymore. At least not for me. The words hung between them, honest and raw. Wren's breath caught. Then, without thinking, without caring about consequences or complications, she kissed him. Jericho froze for a heartbeat. Then he was kissing her back, one hand tangling in her hair, the other pulling her flush against him. It was desperate and fierce and real, not for show, not for appearances, just two people finding each other in the darkness. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jericho rested his forehead against hers. "That complicates things," he murmured. "Good," Wren whispered. "I'm tired of things being simple." A slow smile spread across his face. Then he took her hand, leading her upstairs to quarters that no longer felt like a pretend sanctuary. "Stay with me tonight," he said. "Not for the club, not for appearances, just stay." "I'm not going anywhere," Wren promised. And for the first time since Callan disappeared, she meant it. If this story has grabbed your heart, hit that like button. Show us you're invested in Wren and Jericho's fight for truth. The federal agent arrived at dawn, a lean man in his 40s with sharp eyes and a military bearing. His name was Carter Webb, and he greeted Jericho with a handshake that turned into a brief embrace, brothers in arms recognizing each other. "You look good for someone who got shot at last night," Webb said, nodding toward Jericho's bandaged side. "Just a scratch. Come on, we've got a lot to show you." They spent the morning in the radio room, Webb reviewing every document, every photograph, every page of Callan's journal. His expression grew darker with each revelation. "This is solid," Webb finally said. "Names, dates, transactions. This could bring down a trafficking network that spans 3 states. But Jericho, the moment I take this to my superiors, everyone connected becomes a target, including her." He nodded toward Wren. "I know." Jericho's jaw was tight. "That's why we need witness protection. For Wren, and for anyone in the club who can testify." Webb nodded slowly. "I can arrange it, but it'll take time. 24 hours minimum to get the paperwork through. Can you hold the fort until then?" "We'll manage." Bishop's voice came from the doorway. "This club has survived worse." After Webb left with copies of the evidence, promising to return with protection details, the compound settled into tense waiting. Guards doubled their patrols. Women and children were moved to the reinforced buildings. The club prepared for a siege that might never come, or might arrive at any moment. Wren found herself in the clubhouse kitchen, helping Maya prepare food for the nervous families. The work was oddly soothing, giving her hands something to do while her mind raced. "You really love him, don't you?" Maya asked, slicing vegetables with practiced efficiency. Wren didn't pretend not to understand. "I don't know if it's love. Everything's happened so fast. But yes, I feel something. Something real." "Good." Maya smiled. "That man has been alone too long, carrying the weight of this club, of his past, of every promise he's ever made. He deserves someone who sees past the leather to the man underneath." "What if I can't stay?" Wren's voice was small. What if witness protection means leaving everything behind? Then you figure it out together. Real love finds a way. Maya paused. Or you don't leave. You fight for the life you want, instead of running from the one you fear. Before Ren could respond, alarms blared. Red lights flashed through the compound. Men scrambled for weapons. Bishop's voice came over the radio. "We've got vehicles approaching. 6 trucks, heavily armed. Everyone to positions." Ren's heart hammered. "They're coming. Get to Jericho's quarters," Maya ordered. "Lock the door. Don't come out until someone you trust tells you it's safe." But Ren didn't run. She followed Maya to the main building where club members were taking defensive positions. Through the windows, she could see trucks rolling up to the gate, their headlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Jericho appeared, strapping on body armor. When he saw Ren, his expression went hard. "What are you doing here? I told you to stay in the quarters." "I'm not hiding while you fight." Ren grabbed his arm. "Whatever happens, we face it together. You taught me that." Something in his eyes softened. Then he kissed her, hard and desperate, like a goodbye and a promise all at once. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. Got it?" "Got it." The truck stopped at the gate. A figure emerged, amplified voice booming across the compound. "Jericho Flint, we know you have something that belongs to us. Send out the girl and the evidence, and everyone lives. Refuse, and we burn this place to the ground with you in it." Jericho picked up a radio, his voice calm and cold. "You must be confused. Nothing here belongs to you, and if you think you're burning anything, you clearly don't know who you're dealing with. Last chance, Flint, and come and take it." Jericho killed the radio, then turned to his club. "Brothers, we knew this day might come. Today we stand for something bigger than ourselves. Today we stand for the truth. Are you with me?" A roar of agreement shook the building. Ren felt the raw power of brotherhood, of loyalty forged in fire. Then the first shot rang out. Bullets shattered windows. Ren ducked behind an overturned table, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Around her, Iron Creed returned fire with disciplined precision. This wasn't chaos, it was controlled fury. Jericho moved through the room like a general commanding troops. "Bishop, take the east side. Denver, reinforce the gate. Maya, get the families to the bunker." Through the smoke and noise, Ren saw something that made her blood run cold. One of the attacking trucks had a mounted gun sweeping across the building's face. The rounds chewed through concrete and wood, forcing club members to retreat. "Jericho!" Bishop shouted. "We can't hold this position. Fall back to the secondary line." Jericho grabbed Ren's arm. "Come on!" They ran through the building, bullets chasing them. Behind them, the clubhouse erupted in flames, a Molotov cocktail crashing through the broken windows. The compound was burning. They reached the garage where motorcycles lined up like steel horses waiting for battle. Bishop was already there, organizing the defense. "We need to take out that mounted gun. It's tearing us apart." "I'll do it." Jericho checked his weapon. "Cover me." "No!" Ren grabbed his arm. "You go out there, you die. I go out there, I give everyone else a chance to live." His eyes were steady, resolved. "This is what leadership means, Ren. Sometimes you're the sacrifice. Then I'm coming with you." She picked up a fallen weapon, her hands shaking but determined. "You taught me we face things together, so let's face it." Jericho looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his hard face. "All right, but you do exactly what I say. Deal? Deal." They burst from the garage on a motorcycle, Jericho driving while Ren held on behind him. The mounted gun swiveled toward them, bullets kicking up dirt and sparks. Jericho weaved between burning buildings, using the compound's layout to his advantage. "When I say jump, you jump!" he shouted over the engine noise. "What? Just trust me!" He gunned the engine, heading straight for the truck with the mounted gun. The gunner tracked them, finger on the trigger. At the last second, Jericho yanked the handlebars, sending the motorcycle into a controlled slide. "Jump!" Ren threw herself off the bike, hitting the ground hard. Pain exploded through her shoulder. Through blurred vision, she saw Jericho abandon the motorcycle, letting it crash into the truck's grill. Then he was rolling, coming up with his weapon raised, firing at the gunner. The mounted gun went silent. Bishop and the others surged forward, taking advantage of the opening. The battle turned. The attacking forces, realizing they'd lost their advantage, began to retreat. Trucks reversed, tires spinning, leaving burning buildings and fallen men behind. Within minutes, it was over. Sirens wailed in the distance, real police summoned by the noise and flames. The compound looked like a war zone. Smoke billowed from the destroyed clubhouse. Bodies lay in the dirt. But they'd held. Ren found Jericho sitting against a wall, blood soaking through his shirt from a new wound. She ran to him, dropping to her knees. "You're hurt. We need to get you help." "I'm fine." He caught her hand. "Are you okay?" "Bruised. Nothing serious." She touched his face. "You could have died." "But I didn't, because I had something worth living for." He pulled her close, kissing her like the world was ending and beginning all at once. Carter Webb arrived with federal backup, surveying the destruction with grim satisfaction. "Local authorities are in custody. We've got warrants out for everyone on Callan's list. You did good, Flint." "We did good," Jericho corrected, looking at Ren. "All of us." In the aftermath, as emergency services swarmed the compound and investigators documented everything, Ren sat with Jericho in the back of an ambulance while a medic stitched his wounds. Around them, club members tended to their injured, counted their losses, and began the process of rebuilding. "What happens now?" Ren asked quietly. Jericho laced his fingers through hers. "Now we heal. We rebuild. We honor the ones we lost, including your brother." Webb said witness protection is still an option. "Is that what you want?" Ren looked around the compound, at Maya helping injured families, at Bishop directing cleanup, at Denver and the young prospects already working to clear debris, at the community that had welcomed her, protected her, fought for her. "No," she said firmly. "This is home now, if you'll have me." Jericho's smile was weary but genuine. "I think that can be arranged. Even though the clubhouse burned down, buildings can be rebuilt. Brotherhood can't." He stood, pulling her to her feet. "Come on, we've got work to do." Together, they walked into the smoke and ruin, ready to forge something new from the ashes. 3 months later, the compound looked reborn. A new clubhouse stood where the old one burned, its walls stronger, its foundation deeper. The scars of that night remained, bullet holes patched, burn marks painted over. But they served as reminders of what they'd survived. Ren stood on the porch watching the sun set over Iron Creed territory, a cup of coffee warming her hands. Behind her, music and laughter drifted from the clubhouse, where the club celebrated the completion of the rebuild. Maya had cooked enough food to feed an army. Children ran through the yard, their shouts carefree and bright. "Thought I'd find you out here." Jericho appeared beside her, his leather cut worn but pristine. The scars from that night had healed, leaving new lines on his weathered face. "Just thinking," Ren said, "about Callan, about how much has changed. He'd be proud of you." Jericho wrapped an arm around her waist. "You finished what he started. The trafficking network is destroyed. The corrupt officials are facing justice. And you did it without losing yourself in the process." "We did it." Ren leaned into him. "All of us." The federal investigation had been swift and brutal. Sheriff Davies, Judge Morrison, and 18 others were in custody awaiting trial. The evidence Callan died protecting had brought down a network that stretched from Copper Ridge to state capitals. Newspapers called it the biggest trafficking bust in a decade, but for Ren, the real victory was smaller and more personal. She'd found Callan's body 3 weeks after the siege, buried in the hills where he'd been killed trying to do the right thing. The funeral had been small, just Wren, the Iron Creed Club, and Agent Webb paying respects. They'd laid Callan to rest in the compound's memorial garden, among other brothers who died standing for something. "I want to show you something," Jericho said, taking her hand. He led her to the garden where headstones marked fallen members. In the center, a new monument stood, black granite etched with names and a simple inscription: "They died so others could live." Callan's name was first on the list. "It's beautiful," Wren whispered, tears blurring her vision. "Bishop designed it. Maya helped with the wording." The club voted unanimously to include Callan as an honorary member. Jericho squeezed her hand. He was never officially patched in, but he died protecting the same ideals we stand for. That makes him family. Wren traced her brother's name with shaking fingers. "Thank you for everything, for keeping your promise." "I keep my promises." Jericho turned her to face him. "Which brings me to something I've been meaning to ask." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. Inside lay a simple ring, silver band, engraved with the Iron Creed emblem. "This isn't a traditional proposal," Jericho said. "This life, it's not easy. It's dangerous and complicated and messy, but it's real. And what I feel for you is real. So I'm asking, will you stay? Not as my pretend woman, but as my real one, my partner, my equal, my home." Wren's heart swelled until she thought it might burst. "Yes, God, yes." Jericho slipped the ring on her finger, then kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. Behind them, the clubhouse erupted in cheers. Apparently they'd had an audience. "Took you long enough, boss," Bishop called out, grinning. "We've been waiting for this since day one." Maya appeared with champagne and tears streaming down her face. "Welcome to the family, officially." The celebration that followed was everything Wren had never known she wanted. Music and dancing, stories told and retold, brotherhood and sisterhood woven together like threads in a tapestry. Denver gave a clumsy toast about how Wren had taught him that courage didn't mean never being afraid. Maya shared memories of watching Jericho fall in love without realizing it. Bishop raised a glass to Callan, honoring a man who died to expose the truth. As the night wore on and the stars emerged, Jericho pulled Wren aside to a quiet corner of the compound. "I have one more thing," he said. From another pocket, he produced an envelope. "Callan left this in his evidence stash. It's addressed to you." Wren's hands shook as she opened it. Inside, her brother's familiar handwriting covered a single page. "Wren, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. I'm sorry for leaving you alone. I'm sorry for chasing a story that got me killed. But I'm not sorry for trying to do the right thing. You always told me I was too stubborn, too idealistic. You were right, but someone had to stand up. Someone had to say enough. I met a man named Jericho Flint. If something happens to me, find him, trust him. He's one of the good ones, even if he doesn't think so. He promised to help me, and I believe he will. He's the kind of man who keeps his word. Live your life, Wren. Don't spend it mourning me. Fall in love. Build something beautiful. Be happy in ways I never learned how to be. You were always the brave one. I just hid it better. I love you, little sister, forever and always." Callan Wren's tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. Jericho held her while she cried, his presence steady and strong. When the storm of grief passed, she folded the letter carefully, pressing it to her heart. "He was right about you," she said. "You are one of the good ones." "I just keep my promises." Jericho kissed her forehead. "And I promise you this, we'll build something beautiful, together." From the clubhouse, someone called their names. The celebration was reaching its peak, waiting for the president and his woman to return. Wren looked up at Jericho, seeing not a motorcycle club president or a warrior or a man haunted by past failures. She saw her future, her home, her family. "Ready to go back?" he asked. Ren slipped her hand into his, the ring on her finger catching the moonlight. Ready. They walked back to the clubhouse together, leaving the memorial garden behind, but carrying its lessons forward. The music swelled as they entered, and the club surrounded them, brothers and sisters chosen not by blood, but by loyalty, not by obligation, but by love. This was Iron Creed. This was home. This was the life built on promises kept and battles won. And as Ren looked around at the faces that had become family, she understood something her brother had died knowing. Some truths are worth fighting for, some promises are worth keeping, and some loves are worth every risk. Jericho raised his glass, his voice carrying over the celebration. To Callan Ashford, to truth, to justice, and to the family we choose. To family, the club roared back. Ren smiled through tears, feeling her brother's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. He'd sent her to Jericho. He'd known somehow that these broken people would heal each other, that this rough, dangerous man with storm-grey eyes would become her salvation. The pretend relationship that started in a bar fight had become the realest thing in her life. The lie had transformed into truth. And the promise Jericho made to a dying journalist had led him to the woman who would change everything. Some stories don't end. They just begin again, stronger and brighter than before. This was one of those stories. Thank you for staying with Ren and Jericho's journey from fear to family, from pretend to forever. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel. Share it with someone who believes in second chances, kept promises, and love found in the most unexpected places. Your support helps us bring more stories of courage and redemption to life. Until next time, remember, the best families aren't born, they're built, one promise at a time.